All right, hi everyone, I'm Jackson Frew and we're here today for a bike check on my prototype VR1 downhill bike. This is prototype 03, so this was the third one that we built. This was my specific one and the first one that I did a lot of the testing on these bikes for. This is, I suppose, what you would call a size large. Was my spec, so it's 480 reach. The head angle, as it sits, about 62.5. It's actually quite slack just because of the links that I run. Rear end, I can't remember exactly what the rear end is off the top of my head, but it's a bog stock, size larger rival rear triangle. And yeah, full on downhill weapon. All right, so yeah, as I said, this is pretty much what you would call a size large. So it's a 480 reach. The front triangle on these bikes is half of an arrival trail bike front end. So about halfway down the top tube, there's a cut line. And the front, and so the head tube and the stack height and everything like that is exactly the same as a stock arrival trail bike. As I said, the swing arm is a stock arrival swing arm, which actually ended up being really good because they're super boost. So this is a standard 157 rear end. It's a little over 210 mil of rear travel, I think. We were changing that a little bit with some links. I don't remember the final number. It's obviously a full 200 boxer front end. With these links, these are 03 links we called them. So this was like one of the setups we ran with a bit of a hodgepodge. With that, the head angle was like 60.5 degrees or something silly when we got it, because I was trying to get the bottom bracket as low as we possibly could. So there's a Works Components plus minus 2 degree headset cup setup in it. That with then the boxer is dropped through a fair way, I would say, but I run a lot of spread on the crowns just to stiffen them up with the front wheel. Fork is, as I said, it's a bog stock boxer ultimate, off the shelf, nothing special going on. It's got 4 tokens in it, 4 or 3. I would change around a little bit here and there. 148 PSI, which is probably a little bit low. I'm 85 kilos, 87 kilos, give or take with gear, depending on sort of what day of the week it is really. The rebound is 5 from closed, so I run that fairly slow, you would say. Low speed compression is 4 from open. The high speed compression is 1 from fully open. And as I said, 3 or 4 tokens depending on sort of the track and everything like that. So it's fairly open on the compression circuit, fairly closed on the rebound. I ride set quite far back, so my hips and my weight is very, very rarely is it in front of the bottom bracket. Most of my weight is through my feet at all times. So that means, yeah, I'm quite soft on the front. We'll get to my bar roll a little bit later, which everyone loves to talk about. The rear shock, Vivid Air, again, bog stock ultimate. I don't remember what tune this one was. There was a couple different tunes that I was playing with and a couple different coil shocks I was playing with, but I kept coming back to the air shock, and we threw this tune in for Worlds last year and was just straight away got on with it really good. I was struggling to find a tune where I could have a sort of reasonable rebound number, and this is still pretty wide open, but it is what it is. 238 in the shock. Fair bit. 3 tokens. I was playing with more and sort of kept dropping it back a little bit. I find these shocks don't need a lot for me personally. The rebound's 13 from closed, so pretty open. As I said, there was a couple different tunes I was playing with, and I was either on the really open end or the really closed end of the rebound, just with how I rode and the pressures I was running and everything like that. +1 on the high speed compression and -1 on the low speed. Pretty neutral, and the hydraulic bottom out is 2+ or +2, so on these rock shocks. There's not a lot of clickers, but you can just rotate them around like that. Yeah, there's not much you can really say. It was really good. I got on these links pretty early. I've got a whole bag of different links and bits and pieces and stuff that we were trying and we were playing with wheelbase, bottom bracket heights, every combination of leverage ratio, anti-squat, anti-rise, all of it, everything. So this was where I kept coming back to. How does it ride? It sort of rides like an Arrival does, but there's more to it. We took a lot of the platform out of the top. We were initially trying to run a pretty big platform, sort of 55–60% of the stroke to try and keep it up. We ended up taking that platform out, and it's pretty consistent the whole way through the travel. It's really, really nice to ride. Really rewards you for pumping and the backsides, but will still chew the big bumps as you need to. The only real downfall of this is I think we didn't put enough rearward movement in the actual path, and so on like really steep, really, really chewed out tracks, you've got to run quite a lazy rear hub or a soft engagement hub, or else you do start to feel the kickback. With the way that I ride, I personally didn't really like running the O-chain on it, just because I found it would turn the kinematic we had into a bit of a light switch. It'd just turn it all off, and then as soon as the O-chain bottomed out on its rotation, it would just hit like a light switch, and all of a sudden the bike would try and recontrol your weight moving through the travel. So yeah, I played with it a little bit, but I didn't personally like it on this particular bike. All right, the elephant in the room, my bar and stem setup. This is the first thing anyone notices when they look at my bike, they sit on my bike, anything. So it's a 50mm direct mount stem, just a one-off stem that we did. The bars are a stock to package rise and sweep, 30mm rise, and they're cut to 775. So they work out to be about 780 with the grips on them. My bar roll is pretty far back. Like, if you look at it in line with the forks, minus about another 5 degrees or so. Now my reasoning behind this is, as I said before, I always ride with my weight over or behind the bottom bracket. Like it never moves forward than that. And I ride somewhat hunched over and my wrists are a little bit flat. So I kind of sit like this, have my wrist quite flat. And so when I would hit a big bump, especially on a steeper track, what would happen if I had my bars rolled forward is my wrist would fall underneath them like that and I'd kind of collapse. So to do it, what I did is I just started rolling my bars back a little bit more and got to this point. So now when I hit a big hole, it's exactly as if I was riding really over the front and my bars were rolled in like a more neutral position. It'd be the exact same thing. So that's the reasoning behind it. Other than that, there's nothing really that special about them. Obviously Maven levers. I generally run my front brake, which is the right side, which is the correct way to run it, a little bit lower than my rear brake. They're both pulled about probably 15mm off the, 10–15mm off the grips. And I run the shifter pushed as far in as I can. I run my hands as far out on the grips as I can. And so with the bars pulled that far over and the little Shran clamps, I kind of push the shifter pretty far over. But I'm not super picky with shifter position that much. Grips are ODI Elites. They're like, as far as I'm concerned, they're the best grips ever. I buy them, they're the best. I think we played a little bit with flex in these bars here and there, but not a lot. These things are really solid. I never broke any. Other than that, they're just been a solid setup. Seat and all that is just where it is so that I don't hit it. Because of how we had to lower the bottom bracket to get the bottom bracket lower, the seat tube angle is really, really, really laid over. So the seat's pushed relatively far forward and we had to run one of the high clearance ones to get it out of the way. But other than that, that's about it for kind of cockpit setup. All right, wheels and tires. This is the one that I probably played with the most last year. Tires, my go-to is DHF DHR2. 2.5 on the front, 2.4 in the rear. I've run the 2.5 DHRs a little bit, not a lot. Personally, with the rim widths that I run, I didn't see that big of a need to change them over. So if I had them, I'd throw them on, but kind of didn't faze me too much. Obviously 3C downhill casing, these tires, they're just the best. I don't have trouble poking holes in them. I don't really have trouble sealing them. They're just the best. Sometimes I would run a double DHR2. Again, not that common. I'd probably more do that on my trail bike for like an air downhill style race, but I just love the DHF. It's such a good tire, it's so predictable, really consistent. It's just the best, you can't go wrong. And the same with the DHR2. It feels like you're letting out a parachute when you get on the brakes in this thing. Rims, so it's mullet. So 29 on the front to 30mm width, front and rear. A WR1 Convergence mold, different layout, and there's a couple different ones that I have. I kept coming back to these ones, I really like them. A little heavier on the spoke tension on the front, little lighter on the rear, I think is where we ended up. But again, we were playing with that a heap. The thing I was always shooting for with these wheels is I wanted the bike to track really well, but kind of take some of the small bump out of the front with a front rim. So we would shoot for some radial compliance, I think was the way we had it. And then the rear was a little bit more flex just to help the tire when I'd load it up. A big problem that I always run into is because I ride with my weight balance so far rearwards, if I could get the front to grip, the rear would roll the tire, flex the rim, do all sorts of weird stuff just because easily 80% of my weight is swinging off the back wheel. So that's always been a challenge for me. So front tire pressures, I've been creeping down over the last few years. I've run as low as 24, generally sort of 25, 26, depending on the track. Like if we're shooting for faster rolling, I'll go 26, but I've gotten away with 24 before. But the rear tire is like 27. If I go any lower than that, it just feels like I'm peeling it off the rim. Thankfully, I don't ever peel them off the rim, but I don't like the feeling of the tire rolling mid-corner. It feels like I'm doing damage, or I'm gonna open myself up to hitting it on a rock or whatever. So yeah, 27 is pretty much as low as I'll ever go on the rear tire. These ones are King hubs. These are by far my favorite hubs. I absolutely love them. Also run some of the i9s, which are also really good. I was depauling them a little bit to take a bit of the engagement out here and there. We were trying that just to try and calm them down a little bit. But yeah, these Kings are my favorite hubs at the moment. I love them. I'm a bit of an engineering geek and I pull them apart to service them, and they're so nice inside that I just love them. The reliability of these has been insane. All right, brakes and drivetrain. Drivetrain, I'm really not very picky. The biggest problem I have on this bike is bending chain rings. Bottom bracket is really, really low. And so I was running a 34 for a little while to try and get some clearance, but it didn't really help. So I just went back to a 36. It's XO1, 7-speed, it's just the standard really at this point. Brakes are Mavens, 200mm rotors front and rear. I tried both pad compounds, and honestly on the front, if I could run a 180, I probably would. I still find myself locking this front wheel up all the time. Having said that though, these brakes are insane. Like, they're so good. I can't get them hot. I never have to bleed them. Yeah, there's not much else really to say about them. Get yourself some Mavens. Not sponsored by them anymore, but they're just good. So that's pretty much my bike. In between a set and forget sort of person and a fiddle with it sort of person, I find this is my baseline setup, and I'll definitely tweak, you know, a few PSI here and there, clickers here and there at a race, and try and get it closer. But I'm not someone who really chases absolute perfection when I'm at a race. I know that when I get on track, exactly what it's gonna do when it's set up like this, how it's gonna feel, how it's gonna ride, and what it's gonna react like, which is more important to me than having the 1% better. Things been super reliable. It's been a pretty special project to be a part of, having, you know, endless amount of links to play with and change, and getting the ride feel that I really wanted and that we were chasing. This front triangle's been re-laminated with 7 or 8 layers of carbon on the down tube to stiffen it up, because we were trying some of that stuff. It's been a pretty special project, and this bike is pretty special to me, and I'm very, very lucky that I've got this one and I've got another one too, which is really, really cool. So yeah, these ones are definitely gonna get hung on the wall when they're done, but for now, this thing's still a weapon and we're gonna keep going. So you'll see me at Crankworks, see me at World Champs this year, hopefully. And yeah, see yous around.